Hello, my name is Heidi Rasakari and welcome to today's webinar, Poison Center Notifications 2020. Today, you can expect from us to be informed about the first and second Annex VIII amendments. You can also learn about the IT developments that are coming to assist you in preparing your notifications. You will also get the latest on our guidance and support material, but also mainly use this opportunity to ask questions from our panelists. Now, to ask a question, you can use the Q&A panel at any time, but we do ask you to limit your questions to the material presented here today, or perhaps if you have any technical issues. We will endeavour to answer as many questions as possible as we can today until 1 o'clock Helsinki time. If you have any questions after the event, you can also contact the ECHA Help Desk using the contact form provided in the link on your screen. Of course, the material today will be published, so the video recording, the presentations, and the Q&A transcript will all be available from the ECHA webinar page. So today's agenda will include a short introduction from myself. We will then have a regulatory update from Daniele Ape, an IT update from Claudia Raimondo. Plus, we'll also look at the guidance and support before we conclude with some take-home messages. So the concept of harmonised reporting of hazardous mixtures for poison centre use stems from Article 45 in the CLP regulation and is further detailed in Annex VIII of the same regulation. Now, Annex VIII was first adopted in March 2017, and it proposed a number of stepwise compliance dates for industry. As you may well be aware, this Annex VIII has recently been amended, and you will learn more about that in the next presentation. ECHA also has a role, and this is to facilitate the industry submissions to the nationally appointed bodies. And to this end, we have released a number of tools, regulatory guidance, and of course, support material. And this is the focus of our webinar today. So just as a reminder, the mixtures that are relevant for poison centre notifications are those that are classified for human health or physical effects. These include, for example, biocides, cleaning products, adhesives, paints, and so on. We also get a number of questions about mixtures that are in and out of scope. So, for instance, the mixtures that are out of scope, of course, are the mixtures that are out of scope of the CLP regulation as a whole. For example, flavourings in foodstuffs. Now, this mixture actually may be in scope if it is used differently. For example, if it is used also as a flavouring in an e-liquid. Substances are also out of scope, unless that substance is diluted in a solvent, making a mixture. Articles too are out of scope, unless it could be considered that it is an article combined with a mixture, such as candles or cleaning wipes. Mixtures that are classified for environmental effects, gases under pressure, or explosives are also out of the scope, unless they have additional human health or physical hazard classifications. So the point of this slide is really assess your mixture on a case-by-case basis. So who has to submit information? Well, Article 45 is very clear, stating that it is the EU importers and downstream users placing hazardous mixtures on the market. Now, these would include formulators, toll formulators, repackagers, and refillers. There are other economic operators such as certain distributors, such as relabelers, for instance, if they are placing a mixture on the EU market that is non-compliant with the CLP regulation. In this case, they would have to submit information according to Article 4 of the CLP regulation in conjunction with Article 45. But who else can submit information? Well, a number of EU-based economic operators can also submit information. For example, an EU legal entity working on behalf of a duty holder. This could include a consultant or a mother company working on behalf of the daughter company. And we have a functionality which we call a foreign user. This is explained in more detail in the ECHA Accounts Manual. Of course, EU-based importers and downstream users of mixtures that are out of scope may also wish to submit information. And in this situation, it would be as a voluntary submission. We have a guide to dossier preparation and submission, which explains a little bit more about how to make a voluntary submission. In addition to this, it is possible for EU-based legal representatives working for non-EU suppliers. They can also make a voluntary submission, and this is further explained in the guidance on Annex VIII. Now, just a word on the compliance dates. Firstly, they are not deadlines. There are 2 compliance dates, and these dates are depend on the use type of the mixture. So for mixtures that have consumer or professional uses, these must comply from the 1st of January 2021. Now, similarly, for industrial use mixtures, the compliance is from 1st of January 2024. But there are a number of considerations that you need to determine when you are obliged to comply with Annex VIII. So bear in mind, if the mixture has not yet been notified, then it must comply with the new obligations and the new information requirements from the date according to the use type. So 2021 or 2024. Now, if the mixture has already been notified nationally and exists on the market, you can benefit from a transitional period until the 1st of January 2025 unless changes occur to that mixture as placed on the market. So, how does one submit before the compliance obligations start? So before the new requirements start applying to a specific mixture, the notifications must adhere to the existing national information requirements and also the submission systems, the national submission systems in place. ECHA does not have all of this information, so we do encourage you to check with the member state for more details. We have a link on our Poison Centre webpage where you can find this, the contact details for each appointed body. So now just a few words about using the portal. The ECHA submission portal has been available since April 2019 for you to start preparing your notifications. Of course, it is a submission portal, so you can also submit your notifications as well, provided that the member state is ready to accept them. Now, currently, we know that only Germany and Estonia are the only member states that are currently able to accept the Annex VIII submissions through the portal. You can find out more from the overview of member states' decisions at the link on your screen.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniele Ape and I'm part of the ECA Poison Center team. I will give you today an update from the regulatory perspective, and I will try to explain you what is changing with regard to the obligation under Annex VIII. So as you know, Annex VIII to CLP entered into force more than 2 years ago. And during the last 2 years, Commission, Industry, Member State and ECA had discussion, and several areas for further clarification were identified. So the Commission worked on the first revision of Annex VIII, and this was adopted in November last year. The first amendment of Annex VIII was published on the official journal in January this year, and actually entered into force the 30th of January, so just a few days ago, and is actually in place at the moment. What has changed? The first amendment brought in a first few changes. In particular, changes in the compliance date. So the first compliance date has been postponed. There are then a few editorial changes in order to try to bring clarity in the wording of the legal text. But then also there were some changes concerning the information requirement. We will go through all of them and we try to bring clarity. First of all, the compliance date. As you know, the original Annex VIII set specific compliance date in accordance to the end use of the mixture. The first compliance date, which was originally the 1st of January 2020, has been postponed. And now the compliance date for mixture intended for consumer use coincides with the compliance date for mixture intended for professional use. So the first compliance date will be 1st of January 2021. This basically is to allow industry to have time to get better ready, to get prepared for the entry into force of the regulation, and to allow member states to adapt the IT tools, and ECA, which will continue improving and developing the systems provided to industry. So going into a bit more detail to the information requirement changes, we will start with the labeling requirements and UFI positioning. So the amended regulation provides a bit more flexibility when it comes to including the UFI on the label. So the UFI does not need to be included in the label necessarily, but it can be included, printed or attached to the packaging. The point is that it has always have to be close to the other labeling element, and has to be clearly identifiable. So it will not be necessary to include it in the label. Furthermore, it is not necessary to indicate the UFI on each layer in case of multiple layer packaging. And then the typical exemption and possibility applies in case of the size of the specific size or form of the packages. Another change is that the possibility to include the UFI only on the STS and not on the packages, now it has been extended, meaning that it applies to mixture intended for industrial use. And this is regardless the fact that the same mixture can be used in a consumer or professional use downstream. While the original wording of the regulation was restricting this possibility to mixture intended for industrial use only. Now the UFI has to be, in this case, has to be included in section 1.1 of the SDS. And it's worth mentioning that this will be clarified in the upcoming amendment of Annex II to the REACH regulation. Then going further with the changes, it has been the amended Annex VIII added a new contact point in addition to the submitter, the detail to the submitter. Voluntarily, if it's necessary, if it is relevant, it will be possible to indicate an additional contact point, which is the contact point for authority in case more information are needed. And this is supposed to solve or to facilitate certain situations, like, for example, toll formulators or mother companies submitting on behalf of the affiliates. Very important is the way how you can identify your mixture in the mixture. While originally the mixture in the mixture when the composition is not fully known, could be identified via known component plus UFI or safety datasheet plus supplier detail. Now the change is that the SDS is not a requirement anymore, is not a requirement itself anymore. But the UFI, if the composition is not fully known, the mixture can be identified via its UFI only if this UFI has been previously notified to the relevant appointed body. So the UFI and the information behind the UFI has to be known to the appointed body. If this is not the case, so if the UFI has not been notified to the appointed body by a supplier, then you have to identify your mean by identifying the components which are available on the SDS plus the supplier of this mixture, and of course the mixture identifier. Other changes concern the pH, which has to be indicated, and if the pH for any reason is not available, then the justification has to be provided. Also the group submission, now it has been a bit made more flexible because it is not necessary anymore for all the mixture to have the same product category. And finally, the generic product identifier fragrances has been removed. It doesn't exist anymore, and there are only two possible generic product identifier, which is coloring agent and perfumes. Now, this is about the first amendment, but Commission is already working on a second amendment, and it is known as the workability amendment, let's say. Certain industry association 2 years ago raised some workability issues concerning Annex VIII. A specific workability study was run by the Commission, and the conclusion of this study gave the basis to the Commission to bring forward, together with industry, a specific proposal in order to overcome this workability issue. So at the recent workshop held by the Commission, the proposals were presented, and these are basically the main point is to try to balance the need for information for the purpose of Annex VIII, but also the administrative burden from industry side. And the basic point is that always industry is responsible for the information that is submitting. So the main issue which are being analyzed and for which the solution which are being analyzed are basically three. First of all, the fact that some mixture, they have a composition which vary very much because of the component are variable, and because and notwithstanding the composition varies, the final classification of the mixture is the same, and the hazard and the emergency response measure are the same. A second issue was the fact that some mixture are formulated in continuous processes where raw materials are combined, and these mixture they don't need to fulfill specific chemical composition, but they have to fulfill rather specific standard. So the exact composition of this mixture at each point of time is not known, or the variation is so that the concentration are out of the allowable ranges. The third solution will try to address the problem with the point of sale paints. So basically these are the paints which are formulated on demand at the point of sale, so from the retailer. This will trigger many notifications and the need to generate new UFIs basically every day by the retailer. So the solution proposed are the following. First of all, the certain components, if they meet specific criteria, they can be considered interchangeable. So interchangeable components that can be grouped in the same interchangeable component group. So these are components which are different because they may come from different supplier, for example, but they are sufficiently similar to be considered the same from a toxicological point of view, from the point of view of the technical function, and from the point of view of the hazard identification. So this component, it will be possible to group them in the same interchangeable component group, which will be included in the notification of the mixture. Whatever interchangeable component is used at each time, the information of the final mixture do not change. So the hazard identification and the additional information of the mixture does not change. The second solution proposed is the possibility to refer to a specific standard formula. basically certain industry sector, namely the cement sector, gypsum, concrete, and petroleum. They have proposed some specific standard formula, and the mixture. And the notification may include the reference to this standard formula. So basically the composition will deviate from the default Annex VIII concentration limit. And this standard will be most likely a closed list of standards that could be used for specific sector. The third and last solution, which will be included in the second amendment of Annex VIII, concern, as we say, the point of sale paints. Basically, the proposal is that there will not be a need to notify the final point of sale mixture, but rather the base paint and the tinters used, they have to be notified. They will have to be notified by the relevant formulator. So the label of the point of sale paint will have to include the UFI of the base paint and of the tinters. And this can be done, for example, by applying stickers. And then it is under discussion the concentration range, which has to be indicated if the tinter exceeds such concentration range. Now, the timeline, towards about the timeline of this second amendment, as we said, is under discussion and preparation now. There have been consultation with the stakeholders. There was the second consultation with the stakeholders following the presentation of the first proposal. The Commission is now currently working on the analysis and implementation of this new comment from industry and from member state. The plan is to present a second updated proposal to the competent authorities at the Caracal meeting, at the meeting of the competent authorities, the 31st of March. So the plan of the Commission is to be able to publish the second amendment already during the summer. So this all. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Claudia and I work in the Poison Centers team in ECHA. Today I will give a presentation about the tools made available by ECHA for industry to prepare and submit Poison Centers notifications. Let's start first with the tools to prepare PCN notifications. There are three ways to prepare it: using Euclid Cloud, using Euclid Offline, and using a company-owned system. Now I will briefly explain how you can use each one of them. So let's go with the first one. Euclid Cloud is available in the ECHA submission portal. In there, you can prepare your PCN dossier in a simple way, section by section. You have the possibility to validate the information that you have entered by using the validation assistant. And you can see the content of the dossier that you are preparing by using the preview report. Your data are stored in a secure manner, and you can access them and use them as many times as you need. Euclid Cloud is maintained, backed up, and updated by ECHA, so you can prepare your dossier always using the most recent PCN format. Offline, you can prepare a PCN notification by using Euclid VI. Euclid VI is a software that you can download from the Euclid website. Once you have installed Euclid VI on your computer, it has to be maintained locally, and in case of new releases, you need to make sure that you replace the old version with the new one to be sure that you can prepare always valid dossiers. Euclid VI is available also in a server version for those companies that are planning to have multiple users. Euclid Offline is now available in a new web interface, which is visually the same as the one available in Euclid Cloud. The third way to prepare a PCN notification is generally used by companies with a vast portfolio. Based on the PCN format, companies can use their own systems to prepare Euclid-compatible dossiers in an automated way. In this case, when a new version of the PCN format is made available, company systems need to be adapted accordingly. be informed that this way of preparing notifications will be reused in the near future also for other type of notifications, like the notifications of substances of concern in articles. Let's move now to the tools made available by ECHA to submit PCN notifications. The first tool available is the ECHA Submission Portal. From here, you can prepare your dossiers by accessing the Euclid Cloud. You can submit the dossiers to all the member states where you intend to place your product, provided that all the relevant language requirements are met. But you can also go back to your submissions, see the details, manage them as you wish. The second tool to submit PCN notifications is the System-to-System service. Now, the System-to-System service is an automatic transfer that allows companies that have created PCN dossiers in their own system to submit their notification to the ECHA Submission Portal. In this way, companies can submit a high number of dossiers all at once. And the dossiers, once they are sent to the ECHA Submission Portal, are then forwarded to all the relevant member states that you have indicated in your own dossier. The access to this service needs to be requested to the agency via the ECHA contact form that you can find on the ECHA website. The Poison Center's IT solution was released for the first time in April 2019. And since then, we have already had additional releases aimed at improving the preparation and submission tools. We had a release in July 2019 and another one in January 2020 with improvements in the Euclid Cloud. But we also had a major release in October 2019 where an updated version of the PCN format was made available, and that one reflected adaptations to legal requirements and to technical changes. Among the several improvements that were part of the recent January release, we implemented an easier way for industry to provide classification information. In the previous version of the tool, the user had to provide the necessary information by scrolling the page down and down, and he had to actively look for the fields he had to fill in. And this was coming with high risk of mistakes or of leaving some information behind. With the new solution, the user is now able to select the combination of hazard categories and hazard statements from a single pick list. From here, from this pick list, he can either select the values of interest by scrolling down the pick list, but he can also start typing the hazard category or statement in the field, and the system automatically suggests the combinations the user can select from. Linked to that is the improvement related to the automatic calculation of the labeling information. In the previous version of the tool, the user had to manually fill in the information about the labeling, but now, based on the information provided in the classification section, the system automatically calculates the labeling just by clicking on a button. The user still has the possibility to make changes to the calculated labeling information, so he has still the freedom to adapt signal words or pictograms or hazard and precautionary statements to his own needs. At the same time, if the user changes the classification information and recalculates the labeling, the old information in the labeling section gets overwritten. One additional improvement is related to the name given to the documents created within the dossier. In the previous version, the document's name was usually a generic code automatically assigned by the system, and in this way the user could not really understand what was the content of the document itself. But in this new version, part of the information provided by the user in the document is reflected in the document name, so that the name is actually meaningful now and reflects the content of the document itself. In the slide, you can see a couple of examples. The document containing the UFI now displays the actual value of the UFI. And the document containing the information about color and physical state now displays the actual color, that in this case is white, and the actual physical state, which in this case is liquid. Last but not least, in the January release, you can find the mandatory fields are now explicitly indicated, so the user knows immediately which fields it has to fill in or not. In the example, you can see the message saying that the trade name is mandatory. Moreover, a number of automatisms have been implemented as well. As you can see from the screenshot taken from the tool, now if you click on Product Not Packaged in the Product Information section, the whole section related to the packaging information gets disabled. And same is the behavior when you click on Mixture Not Classified. The whole classification and labeling section gets disabled. Similarly, if now you select certain options, the system automatically provides you with the related fields you need to fill in. An example is the notification type that you find in the dossier header. If you say that you are preparing an update by clicking on the related tick box, the system automatically displays the reasons for updating, which are mandatory, and then you need to select one of them. In the January release, many other improvements were made available, like facilitating the preparation of updates or improving the way mistakes can be corrected from the validation report. And you can find the full list of all these additional features on the Euclid website on the link indicated on the slide. All these improvements were made to support industry and to ease the work for the dossier preparation and submission, and therefore to create valid PCN dossiers. But the work is not done yet. More functionalities and additional improvements are foreseen during 2020. The ECHA submission portal will have a new release again late April, beginning of May. This one will be the version that we would like to use for training purposes in June during the next ECHA conference day. Another release in Euclid Cloud is planned for June. And then in October, we will try to reflect the adaptations to the second amendment of Annex VIII and to the Euclid format update. And that concludes my presentation on the tools to prepare and submit PCN notifications, and I thank you for your attention.
Back to me for a few words about the guidance and support. If you are just beginning on your Poison Center notification journey, I strongly encourage you to take a look at our Poison Center website, in particular the page Steps for Industry. This is a very nice introduction offering a step-by-step guide for industry on how to start getting prepared for the notification process. Following on from that, you might like to delve a little more deeper into the content, and of course we have our ECHA guidance. We have a number of relevant guidance documents for Annex VIII notifications, of course the first and foremost being the guidance on Annex VIII. You would, however, or you may feel the need to look as well at our guidance on labeling and packaging, substances in articles, and also the compilation of safety data sheets as well for more information. Now, the guidance on Annex VIII, currently what is available online is version 2. This version does contain a dissenting note from 4 member states about the obligation for certain distributors, according to Article 4 of the CLP regulation. This version 2 of the guidance, is now translated into 23 EU languages. In addition to this, we are currently working on version 3 of the guidance to make changes according to the First Amendment of Annex VIII. And we do expect this guidance to be available in the summer of this year. Of course, we also have a number of guides and manuals dedicated to the tools, the various tools that we have. So I encourage you here to really, if you're using these particular tools, please do take a look at the manuals that we have prepared. I mentioned earlier about the overview of member states' decisions in relation to implementing Annex VIII. This is available from our website, and you will find a range of information, not just about the portal usage and the readiness of individual member states to accept Annex VIII notifications, but you will find other information in here about the individual member states' language requirements, any information that we have received about fees, and of course, information about timing for placing on the market. I also encourage you to visit our support page. In addition to the support that I've mentioned here today, we also have questions and answers. We also have a new e-learning page which contains our introductory animations, our latest webinars, plus also any training events that we have offered. And if you need more help, please do first check with your national help desk, as they can reply to you in your own language. Of course, the ECHA help desk is always available at the contact form provided at the link on your screen. I would also like to promote or take this opportunity to share with you our new LinkedIn group that we have recently launched. It is ECHA's Poison Centre Notification Group. I invite you to connect with us to receive regular news items, updates from our team members, or perhaps you may wish to post a question or interact with other members. Now I would like to conclude this webinar with a few take-home messages. So firstly, get familiar with the new changes and information requirements now, and do keep preparing even though the compliance date has been postponed. Also, thank you for your patience. We have a number of guidance activities ongoing to provide you with the best possible advice to help you fulfill your information requirements and obligations. Again, please do check which member states receive or can receive an Annex VIII notifications before you submit one. And finally, further adaptation of our IT tools are coming to meet the changes, so stay tuned to our website for any news about our IT releases or any training events that we will be offering soon. As I mentioned earlier, the Q&A panel will remain open until 1 o'clock Helsinki time. You can also save the Q&A transcript in the WebEx window. And if your question is not answered by the end of the webinar, do send it to us via our ECHA contact form and we can reply there. Thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye.